to do that.
Perfect.
Excellent. It does look like we are now live on YouTube and our Facebook platform. So give me one moment, Nate, and I will double check that that is accurate. Okay, I already see a couple of folks that are on here with us. As you are starting to hop onto the broadcast, please be sure to hit that like button and start commenting. I am just sharing this out, so it will be another moment, but appreciate you guys for hopping onto our broadcast. Well, wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for hopping onto our daily live broadcast. I am Juliet Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to say hello to those of you that may be new to our page and encourage you to hit the like button, hit the follow so you can get those notifications when we go live in the future or when we post any content on our page. Of course, if you are a returning viewer of ours, I thank you so much for being a part of these broadcasts since about a year ago now. These videos are available to you at any point in time, of course, to watch in the video section of this Facebook page. They are also available on our YouTube channel, that's Westminster Chamber of Commerce, where they date back into March of 2020. Now, of course, make sure that you share this out to your network. It helps others to know about resources. It also helps us to give a nice warm welcome to any guests that we might have that are either newer in our community or newer onto the broadcast with us. So most of you are aware we have held these broadcasts to share information, updates as it relates to COVID. We've had various speakers help you adapt your business to this crazy time that we're in, all the way to our elected officials that provide us updates on a weekly basis. Today's broadcast is titled as a welcome to the network, and this is our opportunity to welcome some newer partners to our organization. These are business owners or businesses that have chosen to invest, especially during the time of COVID. So we want to kind of give them a nice shout out and allow them an opportunity to say kind of why they chose to do so during this time. So before we transition into that, I just want you to be familiar with a few different functions. One is the function of the thumbs up or any of the reactions that you can give me. Those help with not only providing us some positive reinforcement, but it also allows me to see who's tuned into the broadcast with us, so I can give you some nice shout outs and pleasantries, of course, for dropping what you're doing and tuning into our broadcasts. Now, there is a comment section that's also available to you. This is available on Facebook. It's also available on YouTube. This comment has come to us from Wayne Anderson, who's giving us a quick good morning note. Good morning to you, Wayne, both to Nate and myself. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, you have the option of engaging with us. And by option, I mean, like, I really encourage you to do that. As we get to visiting with our guest speaker that's with us, this is where we'll pull any comments, any questions that you might have, and I might ask you to really react to some of the messaging that's shared. So that is the housekeeping that I wanted to give you. With us today, I have Nate with Sanchez Insurance Group. And Nate, I'm just so excited to have you onto this broadcast with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, please introduce yourself. Tell us, your first and last name. Tell us the company and kind of what you do.
My name's Nate Sanchez with Sanchez Insurance Group, and we do pretty much everything that insurance can do for you. Everything from your personal needs, your auto and home, those kind of things, to business insurance.
And how long have you been in the insurance industry, or is this kind of a newer endeavor?
So in total, about 7 years now.
Okay.
I've had this agency for 7 years, and it's been amazing. It's definitely an industry that even through some of the challenges we faced last year, we were managing to do pretty well and still help people out. So
That's great. That's 7 years is a long period of time to be working in insurance. That's for sure. I also see Refugio. Thank you for having on, Refugio. Good morning to you. So Nate, tell us about you outside of insurance, because I'm sure you don't work just all day, every day. So I want to kind of get to know you. It also helps with us knowing the face behind the company.
yes, of course. And I think I've only slept on my desk once. That was years ago. But no, outside of that, I mean, big things for me is family, is music. My wife and I, we have two daughters, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they are amazing. So I mean, being in an industry where you can control your schedule and be there for your family is imperative. It's absolutely imperative for me. Beyond that, we play music. We've performed many different places. At one point, we actually opened for Leanne Rimes a few years back. Um, so kind of a fun little thing to do on the side. But yeah,
That's
that's a little bit
pretty
about
cool.
me.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Did you say you opened for Leanne Rimes?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just been a personal passion of yours over the years, or how did you get that gig? That's not an easy one for sure.
It was part of a prize for a battle of bands kind of thing. So
How awesome is that? I know you didn't realize when I said I'm going to get personal that I was going to get really personal. So you delved into music for years, right? Like this isn't, and then you decided to compete in this Battle of the Bands event
correct.
that was going on, and the goal of it, or whoever won, would open for Leanne Rimes.
That was part of it. Yeah, and it funded most of our one of our CDs we put out for some recording time.
So what type of music do you play?
Good question. A lot of people call it gypsy rock. However, it's all over the place. It depends on the song.
Okay.
I play guitar. My wife plays accordion or trumpet, depending on the song.
That's pretty neat. So, we do an event annually, and this is like before I get back to the questions because I'm a complete squirrel. But we do an event annually. It's actually our outdoor Mutts and Struts event, where people bring their little fur babies and they walk around, and it's health and wellness geared. But we also have music and entertainment that's there. So I'm just saying you might get pinged so that you can support us in that event. That would be awesome to have you.
Yeah, we'd love to be there.
I also see our U.S. Chamber partner, John Gonzalez. I see past board chair Brian Head, Marquez, and Jessica both tuning in from out of state. Hello to you guys. And Brian Head's our past board chairman. He's just giving us a nice good morning message. Of course, Parker Brown's also another business owner that's here in Westminster tuning into our broadcast today. And lastly, we have Rich. Rich is both on our city councilor, Councilor Seymour, and he has his own farmers agency that's on the corner of 100th and Wadsworth. So thank you guys for hopping onto the broadcast and continuing to give us some love with these comments. Make sure that you give us a nice welcome message to Nate. We are introducing him not only to our audience here on our social platforms, but of course into our network with the Westminster Chamber. Nate is with Sanchez Insurance Group and has been in insurance for 7 years. But the more exciting part, sorry to kind of give you that side, that side jab. The more exciting part is that he's also a musician, which I think is just phenomenal for him to be able to balance that along with 2 kids, and of course keeping his wife and home as awesome as possible. So Nate, I know people are interested in getting to know you a little bit more past some of these quick facts that we've shared. So I want to kind of go in detail. And I know you said you offer commercial type of services. You also do some personal lines of insurance as well. Mm-hmm. You shared that it's been unique during this last year with COVID. So outside of that, how has COVID really affected you? I mean, have you seen a major change, whether it's an increase in the number of people that have done business with you, or a decrease? What can you tell us as it relates to your business during the time of COVID?
Sure. I think a lot of people had to just retool when things started changing and people started facing some challenges. What we found in our agency was we were proactive about helping our personal lines clients with saving money where they could. A lot of people were we rewind back a year from now, right? And people were in their homes and not driving. So during those times, we were proactively calling our clients, letting them know, for any of these vehicles you're not driving, we'll put them in storage. We'll do some creative things to help you save money now because there's some uncertainty, right? Um, and then as part of the retooling, we really just focused a lot on building our commercial side of our business, because regardless of a pandemic and regardless of all these other things, there became a much bigger need for certain businesses to come in and be there for people. So there were a lot of businesses starting. There was a lot of businesses that um, saw an increase, whether it was certain contractors or whatever that was. And so we just really retooled and figured out where is the need now, and just kind of meet that need from there. So it
So
was a little
still,
wild, but it
yeah.
worked.
And so still opportunity. It's just kind of thinking creatively and differently how you can attract that opportunity, right?
Right.
So in terms of safety, right, when we talk about COVID and we talk about regulations that were in place, but more so than that, a lot of industries, especially I would say service type of industries like yours, you rely on that interpersonal exchange more often than not, right? It's not very common necessarily, I would say, that people just go on and select an insurance and just go with it. They like to have that personalized touch and meet with people. So have you been in your office during this time? Have you been if you have been going out and about, are you doing so in a way that's maintaining a level of COVID safety and standards, whether it's mask wearing or social distancing in your office? What does that really look like?
Right. So we've been in the office for most of this time, and really this is an industry that sometimes, depending on what the clients are or what their needs are, a lot of times we can get that done over the phone, or with the advent of a lot of these video call services. I won't name any specifics so I don't break any rules here, but with any of those, we've basically been able to adapt to that so that people could still see some face in front of them and have that feeling. But when people are coming into the office, there's a couple things we do. We obviously wear masks in our office and in the building. In addition to that, I'll title myself an amateur woodworker. So I actually, at the beginning of the shutdown and everything, I built a frame out and put plexiglass in there. So I have this, like, kind of like what you saw probably at the banks when you were first, when that was the case. So I built one of those that kind of matched the stain of my desk to be up, and it's actually still up, and it's just kind of there as just an additional, just in case. It makes people feel good when they're in there, that just in case, okay, there's at least another layer of protection between me and the other person on the other side of the desk.
Have you offered your amateur services to other people? I just feel like, when we ran out of like masks, or where they were delayed, right? And like being able to access and everything, people were turning to those that could hand sew them, that could donate to them. I mean, were you being approached, or did you ever put it out there so that you would get approached for some of that?
Well, I did. And all of it was pretty much pro bono. I mean, there's the different organizations and local charities that I knew had things were still in front of people, because there was no way to make it virtual. And I built a couple for those kind of organizations, and then beyond that, there was one other person that wanted one, but it wasn't a big deal either way. But it was fun to do, and now they seem to be pretty readily available and affordable enough that it doesn't really make sense to have me make you one necessarily. But at least in the beginning there, it was difficult to find something like that, so it was helpful then.
Yeah, no, that's pretty neat that you did that and created it. I always, when I looked at that time, I was just like, man, I wish I was a lot more crafty than what I am, because I feel like I put that into use and really support some of those nonprofits, like you were saying, and those people that were in need. So that's pretty awesome they were able to do that. So So let's transition. I have a couple of other questions that I had over here. And, what is one of the reasons that you came on board to the chamber? I don't believe that I was one to strong arm you into it. So I'm curious to know, why get involved in a chamber, and then why do it during such an odd time?
I think really it came down to just seeing the value um, of what we've gotten from other chambers in the past, and now with more people in the office and having a little more time to actually put into it, it just made a lot of sense to do it. And regardless of pandemic, things being virtual, in person, it for in my case, it doesn't matter as much to me. Just more so that we're getting out there in some form. Uh,
Yeah, and that I think that's so true. Even right now, it's even more so important that you are out there, right? Because it's not as easy for you to necessarily be out there and showing people in person what you're all about. So thank you for that. I was curious, so I always ask this question, even if I might know it. In this case, is a completely wild card, and I was very fortunate that you shared some of that feedback with me. I see Deborah and Emilio both are on here with us. Nate is with Sanchez Insurance Group, one of our newer partners, and we are giving him a nice warm welcome to our network. So if you are hopping onto our broadcast, give me a nice welcome to our community or welcome to the chamber. Or if you want to comment on, what type of music you like, maybe he will take some suggestions for our Mutts and Struts event. And Nate had opened for Leanne Rhymes, and I'm still mind blown over this. So we're like questions much later from that, but I truly like that will forever stay with me. So Nate, you mentioned like with your employees and growing and all of that, so it's not just you. And
yeah.
what does that look like? Do you have a handful of people that are working for you? Are you a larger type of agency?
No, we're still a fairly small agency. Over the years, I've really just been very adamant about not only the attention that I want to be able to give my kids and the time that business might take, um, but I guess with that in mind, I'm not articulating that very well, but with that in mind, I've always had the goal of growing responsibly. So grow the agency, and then once it gets to a point where I'm spending too much time with that, then I'd rather, instead of making more money, I'd rather just hire somebody else and then have the time. A mentor of mine told me, they said, you'll always have more money, but you'll never have more time.
Hmm.
And so at any rate, last year, June, so basically right in the middle of of the pandemic, we made the leap, and I bought my wife out from her corporate job, and she is now full time. She's been full time with the agency since then. And then recently, we hired another producer in the office, and we're actually in the process of hiring somebody to do some marketing for us. So we are growing, and again, the goal is always to be responsible about it, because the last thing I want to do is grow so aggressively that my clients can never get a hold of anybody because we're
Mhm.
just so overly busy.
Mhm.
That's never the goal.
Yeah, no, I love that approach. And that's something I always tell people. It's, no matter how big we get, I still know every person individually. And that's important. I think that that fuels the passion why you do what you do. And when you're more mindful of who you're serving, that helps with what you're able to direct them on and how you're able to best help them. So I do love that. And I've included those comments into the comment section as it relates to some of the hiring that you're doing during the time of COVID. I loved that quote that you gave about having more money, but not ever time. I think that's a great way to approach life, right? And having that intentionality to make things happen and to, do so in a way that respects the life that you're given, right? So Nate, what's something I haven't asked you, because I've gone in detail about like, who you have on your team. I've asked you your background. I've even kind of gone in the weeds and asked about your musical and woodworking hobbies that you have off to the side. But what's something that you would want folks to know that may not already know about either you or the business? Like one key takeaway. And as you're thinking that, I just want to give a quick shout out to Amy, because I see her on here with us, and Emilio as well. Thank you guys for being on here.
Well, probably two things. One is just kind of just a side note about how we operate, which is that a lot of times there are, you know, well, we always do something where we try and figure out the suitability of when somebody's approaching us and saying, "Hey, we want a quote for this," regardless of what it is. Suitability is always number one priority. So when somebody comes to us, they're with a respectable company and they have great coverage already, and we're not able to be competitive on the rate. The last thing we want to do is try and sell something. We'd rather just show somebody an option and let them decide from there. Um, so there are a lot of times when I'm reviewing something and I'll tell people, you're already in a good spot. A better time might be reviewing this in a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
So doing the right thing for the client. But I would probably mention one other thing about my background, just because this is something that a lot of people don't know, and something that I probably should mention just because people find it interesting, which is prior to this, I was a helicopter mechanic for a long time. And that job had me traveling a lot, had me out and about, and this was when I kind of came to that realization about money and time, and which was more important, because there would be months when I would be home for less than a week out of the month, uh, and that was not a way to live life at that point, especially when I had just found out from my new wife, which is well, my only wife, but newly married, right? With my wife Cassie, and we found out that we were pregnant. So that was really the eye-opening moment when I realized, okay, I gotta change something, because me being home for less than a week out of the month is not going to be a long-term. Uh, you know, what's the point of having all this money if I don't have anybody around me to share it with? Um, so at any rate, so that was something that sometimes people don't realize about me, is that there was a pretty major career change. It wasn't just I was in insurance for a while or anything like that, or anything related. It's a completely different industry change. I did it.
And it's interesting because that's how most insurance would and that's why I wanted you on here, is because sometimes we see insurance and we see real estate, right? We see all this stuff so frequently, they just kind of see the industry and not the person. But there's such a unique story behind each one, and in your case, you didn't come from this. You had an entirely different background. I mean, when you think of helicopters and helping with fixing those and just some of these other passions that you have, it's so different from the line of work that you're in. And I think that's something that we really wanted to communicate. Emilio pulled up a quick comment for us, just welcoming you and sharing that he's glad you joined our awesome chamber. Emilio, I will pay you off to the side for that comment. No, appreciate your 2 cents on this. And for those of you,
I love his profile picture too.
Right. Emilio is actually our ambassador chair, and so he does love getting to connect with our area businesses and supporting them, especially during this time. So thank you, Emilio, for tuning in. So Nate, thank you so much for spending some of your morning with us. I so appreciated it, and I will kind of re-emphasize that if it's your first time on here, make sure that you like and follow our page. If you're a returning viewer, share this out with your network so we can give a nice warm welcome to Nate. If you watch this later and we are no longer live, give me that hashtag replay so I know that you tuned in and we can engage with you. And of course, if you picked up a nugget or two and had any questions or comments on anything that Nate has shared, even the Battle of the Bands, etc., you could type that into the comment section so folks can get that question answered for you at a later point in time. And Nate, where is your agency located?
Right off of I-25 and 84th Avenue. So there's a Sportsman's Warehouse right next to me, and there's a 4-story office building right there. So that's where I'm at.
Excellent. And if people need to get a hold of you?
They can give me a call. It's also my cell phone, 720-506-0272.
Awesome. I've included that into the comment section for folks that are tuned in or those that later on do. And before we close out, I just want to reemphasize we'll be back on here with our next live broadcast tomorrow. We have Glenn with us. Many of you know Glenn Plagans. He used to be with the SBDC up here in Westminster, and then the Office of Economic Development for the state actually took him, and he's just been doing so many great things over there. I'm going to say that now because I don't give him too much flattery whenever him and I are chatting together. So, but we'll be on here tomorrow at 11 a.m. and he actually does have a lot of resources and different programs that the Office of Economic Development has launched over this last several months, and of course that they've had in place. So I encourage you, if you are a business owner, soon to be, or one that needs some support, to hop onto our live here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Nate, thank you again for being with us, and thank you to all of our viewers for being a part of our live broadcast. I appreciate it.